You've been told this substance is dangerous. You've been told to avoid it. Medieval people would have considered that belief suicidal. The food medieval people valued more than gold wasn't rare, exotic, or mystical. It was salt. Ordinary salt. And without it, most of Europe would have starved. In the medieval world, survival was seasonal and fragile. There were no refrigerators, no freezers, no global supply chains bringing fresh food in winter. When harvest season ended, whatever you had preserved was all you had until spring. This is where this food became priceless. It wasn't a luxury. It was the difference between eating in February or starving. In February, when snow still covered the fields, villages lived on what had been preserved months earlier. If the salt ran out, meat spoiled in its barrels. Fish turned foul. Children survived on thin gruel while adults scraped mold from food, hoping it wouldn't kill them. In some homes, salt was locked in a chest, opened only when absolutely necessary. Meat, fish, vegetables, butter, even cheese depended on it. Without it, food rotted in days. With it, food could last for months or even years. Entire communities lived or died based on access to this single substance. Medieval economies were structured around necessity, not comfort. This food was so central to life that it shaped geography and politics. Trade routes crossed continents just to transport it. Rivers, mines, and coastal flats became strategic assets. Towns that controlled its production grew rich and powerful. Kings taxed it heavily. Churches demanded it as payment. Roman roads named Salt Roads were still in use centuries later because medieval traders relied on the same paths. When people say medieval society was primitive, they miss this completely. Their entire world was organized around preserving food and surviving winter. Medieval people didn't talk about bacteria, but they understood rot. They knew that meat exposed to air would turn dangerous. This food worked because it pulled moisture out of flesh, creating an environment where spoilage organisms couldn't survive. It slowed decay, stabilized nutrients, and made food safe for long-term storage. Salted pork, beef, fish, and dairy were not emergency rations. They were everyday staples. This wasn't guesswork. It was refined through centuries of trial, error, and survival pressure. Modern science later explained why it worked, but medieval people had already mastered it. Fresh meat was a luxury reserved for slaughter days or the wealthy. For everyone else, preserved meat was normal. Salted beef from England fed armies across Europe. Salted cod from the North Atlantic reached Mediterranean monasteries. Entire fishing industries existed for one reason: to catch, salt, and store fish for inland populations. This food allowed protein to travel hundreds of miles without spoiling. It allowed cities to exist far from farms. It allowed armies to march and kingdoms to expand. Without it, medieval civilization as we know it simply could not function. This substance wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. It appeared in religious rituals, oaths, and ceremonies. Sharing it was a sign of trust. Losing access to it was a punishment. To be worth your salt meant you earned your keep. Monasteries carefully managed their supplies because fasting rules still required preserved foods. Even peasants understood its value instinctively. It was stored carefully, guarded closely, and rationed precisely. In many households, it was locked away like treasure. You didn't waste it. You didn't spill it. You respected it. Gold is useless if you're starving. Medieval people understood this better than anyone. Gold could not keep meat from rotting. Gold could not preserve cheese through winter. Gold could not feed soldiers on campaign. In times of scarcity, this food could be traded directly for land, labor, or protection. Records show it being accepted as tax payment. In sieges, running out of it often meant surrender. Armies with gold but no preserved food collapsed quickly. Armies with preserved food but little gold could keep fighting. Value was measured by survival, not shine. In medieval kitchens, this ingredient was everywhere. Meat was packed into barrels with layers of it. Fish were dried and heavily treated before storage. Butter was preserved beneath it. Vegetables were fermented with it to last through cold months. Even bread relied on it for flavor and nutrition. People consumed far more of it than modern diets recommend, not because they were careless, but because their entire food system depended on preservation. Their bodies adapted to it through hard labor, sweating, and nutrient-dense diets. It wasn't poison, it was protection. Then modern systems taught us something dangerous, that preservation was unnecessary. Refrigeration culture replaced preparation with convenience. Freshness became the standard, and anything associated with survival food was treated as outdated or unhealthy. This ancient food lost its central role almost overnight. Industrialization turned it from a survival necessity into a seasoning. At the same time, processed foods began hiding it in massive quantities, disconnected from preservation and purpose. The problem wasn't the substance itself. It was how it was used. What once preserved whole foods now flooded ultra-processed ones. The context was lost, but the blame remained. Today, we're told this food is dangerous. We're told to avoid it, reduce it, fear it. Yet the medieval world thrived on it for centuries without modern chronic diseases. The difference wasn't the ingredient, it was the diet surrounding it. Medieval people didn't eat refined sugar, industrial oils, or synthetic additives. Their preserved foods were simple, dense, and filling. When modern health advice attacks this ancient food, it ignores thousands of years of human adaptation and focuses only on its misuse in modern systems. Perhaps the greatest irony is how casually we discard what medieval people treasured. They guarded it like treasure. We dump it on roads. They locked it away to survive winter. We scrape it off plates. They feared losing it. We waste it without thought. We buy it cheaply, wastefully, without respect. What once demanded careful harvesting, drying, storage, and protection is now considered disposable. Medieval families would have seen this as madness. To them, wasting it meant hunger. To us, it means nothing. That contrast alone should make us pause. They understood that food security is civilization. They understood that preservation is power. They understood that survival depends on respecting essential resources. This wasn't ignorance or superstition. It was lived experience. When winter came, theory didn't matter. Only preparation did. This food was the foundation of that preparation. Without it, no amount of land, gold, or technology could save you. Modern supply chains are fragile. Refrigeration depends on electricity. Transportation depends on fuel. Medieval people built systems that worked without either. Their methods were resilient, decentralized, and proven under pressure. Rediscovering why they value this food isn't about romanticizing the past. It's about understanding durability, preparedness, and respect for resources. In a crisis, the old logic returns fast. Preservation becomes important again. Suddenly, what we dismissed as outdated feels essential. They weren't ignorant, they were prepared. They understood that survival depends on respecting essential resources. The real question isn't why medieval people valued salt more than gold. It's why we stopped valuing survival at all.